Mr. President. First, I'd like to begin by thanking my colleague, Senator Brown, for his leadership on this issue, and Senator Casey, my colleague from Pennsylvania, who is supportive of this effort as well. Mr. President, this isn't a complicated amendment, and I don't think it's a controversial amendment either. The fact is, in southwestern Pennsylvania, we've got 3 iconic rivers. In northwestern Pennsylvania, we have access to and a coastline along a beautiful and important national treasure. It's Lake Erie. And both of these, the rivers and Lake Erie, the commerce and the recreation that occurs on these waterways are potentially at risk to an invasion of the Asian carp. This, as we all know, is a very aggressive, large, non-indigenous species that could be very, very disruptive to the ecosystem of the rivers, to the ecosystem of Lake Erie. And what we discovered is that there is no single entity in the entire federal government that's responsible for coordinating our response, a response that will help to minimize the risk that the Asian carp would be able to invade the waterways and ultimately make their way into the Great Lakes. It would be potentially devastating if the Asian carp were to do so. And so we have introduced this legislation, introduced this amendment to this bill, which would simply do 2 things. It would place the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in charge of coordinating the federal multi-agency effort. That would include the National Park Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And it would require an annual report on what is being done at the federal and state level to minimize the risk of an invasion by the Asian carp. So, Mr. President, as I say, I believe this is a very, very constructive, modest amendment. I trust that it is not controversial, and I urge my colleagues to support the amendment. And I yield the floor.